Hey everyone, I'm Adam. I'm the program manager here at the Nature Center, and today I'm out for a walk. I'm gonna go check out the wildflowers growing in our old growth forest. If you'd like to come along, then keep watching. Okay, so I've just reached the old growth forest. You can see the utility corridor in the background there. You can see the big pole that holds up the electric wires out there above my head. And so now we are in the old growth forest. I'm actually on the south end of the Brumbaugh Woods Trail right now. And we're going to head on down the trail and we're going to look for some of the half dozen or more species that are blooming right now. Okay, so we're looking for small flowers, big flowers, flowers of all different colors. There are white ones and light purple ones and yellow ones, and if we're lucky we might see a few red ones, and who knows what other colors might be blooming out there right now. All right, so let's go. So here we go. Got one of the first flowers to greet you as you walk into the old growth forest are these tiny little spring beauties. I put my finger near one, you'll see just how small they are. But what they lack in size, they make up for in abundance. Ooh, that one just had a little pollinator on it. Not only are these flowers incredibly fun and beautiful and interesting to look at, but they're an important source of food for many of our early emerging pollinators. So it's really important, as always, but especially so at this time of the year and along this part of the trail system, that you stay on the trail at all times. Gotta stay on the trail. Now here's another really small specimen. These are growing here on the side of the hill, on the side of the trail here. These are called Rue Anemo. Rue Anemo. So you can see they've got these nice white petals, bright white or bright yellow centers, and then they have these little leaves that are kind of broken into 3 pieces here. They're very dainty little flowers, a little bit taller than the spring beauties, but not much. And when the wind starts to blow, they just sort of dance around in the breeze out here along the side of the trail. Rue Anemo. Got a couple more species here growing along the side of the trail. These are some of our earliest blooming. This one here, again, another white wildflower. Pretty larger, at least the flower itself is larger than the others we've seen thus far. It's a pretty decent sized flower. Again, white petals, yellow centers. This one here, the leaves are clasping the stem. This is a really easy way to recognize bloodroot. So this is bloodroot. Bloodroot doesn't form very big colonies in our forest. Sort of pops up here and there as individual flowers. So you've really got to pay attention to the forest floor when you're walking through here in order to find the bloodroot. Another really early blooming wildflower, one that's been blooming for about 2 weeks now, is this one here. This is sharp-lobed hepatica. There's not much left of it. The flowers are starting to fade, but what you will find are the leaves of the sharp-lobed hepatica. Those leaves will persist for the rest of the growing season and all throughout next winter, collecting energy so that there will be flowers for this plant next spring. Sharp-lobed hepatica. Really hit the jackpot here. Got loads of wildflowers. There's some more spring beauty. We've got some Trillium coming up. There's one there. The bud's not open yet. But look what we have here. One large white-flowered Trillium. Just now starting to bloom. So this is our state wildflower. It has 3 leaves and 3 white petals. Again with yellow centers. Sort of a trumpet-shaped looking flower. And in the coming weeks, this entire hillside here will be full of blooming large flowered Trillium. Probably one of the most showiest species that we have here. Maybe just because of the sheer volume and number of them when they're blooming. Now this area, we've kind of hit the jackpot. We've got a lot of different species blooming. We've got those spring beauties sprinkled just about everywhere. We've got that one Trillium. We have quite a few of these blue looking wildflowers in here. These are called early blue Cohosh. You can see one here. Early blue Cohosh right there with their little yellow centers. And they're kind of spread out all across there, if you can see that, mixed in with the large green foliage of the small white leeks. That's what these are. Their foliage emerges first, and then later in the spring you'll see the onion-like flowers standing on tall stalks above this foliage. So small white leek, also known as ramps. That's another common name for the small white leek. Another new one blooming here. These yellow flowers here, these are a type of violet. They're called halberd-leaved violet. Oh, look at that little andrena, a little mining bee getting a little sustenance, some pollen and nectar. Oop, now he's back onto the violet. Look at that little bee. These are tiny little solitary bees. This is really their only chance to find what they need at this time of the year. But back to the violet, here we go. This is a halberd-leaved violet. They have these sort of spade-shaped leaves. They have pretty prominent, like purpley red veins in them. And then they have the typical violet-shaped flower with the stripes on the inside. Halberd-leaved violet. Lots of spring beauty again. Some more of the halberd-leaved violet mixed in there. And over here we have another new one. A really nice specimen. This one here is called cut-leaved toothwort. Cut-leaved toothwort. You can see how there's lots of teeth on the leaves, and the whole leaf starts back here at the stem, so it's sort of cut into 3 main sections, and then those sections look like they've been cut again into even smaller sections. And they have these little, oftentimes they're white, but they can be slightly pink or slightly purple colored flowers. So that is cut leaf toothwort. It's a little bit taller than a lot of the other ones we've been seeing thus far, so it stands out. So, sort of hidden on the forest floor amongst all of the already blooming flowers are these really neat sort of camouflage looking leaves. Here's one here. These are leaves from trout lily. And trout lilies take a long time to build up the energy required for flowering. In fact, many of these plant species can take years to mature. So it could be 2, 3, 4, maybe even as many as 10 years to acquire enough energy to begin flowering. And against the base of this tree is one of the best places to find really nice specimens of blooming yellow trout lilies. So here's a bunch of yellow trout lilies tucked into the pocket of this giant beech tree that we've got here, and a little beech tree that's growing right next to it. And there is so much activity around these trout lilies. There are flies, and there are little solitary bees. There's even, this one here has some species of soldier beetle feeding on it right now. So these are a really, really attractive source of pollen and nectar for many of our insect friends that are out here in the forest right now. Here's another trout lily there. Here comes somebody in for a landing. Another one of our bees. Look at him working through all the parts of the flower collecting pollen. There's another trout lily blooming. So trout lilies, really cool, unique looking flowers that are out here. Get back in on these ones because they're so pretty. There they are. But a new plant. So this little green thing here that looks like a small little umbrella bursting through the soil and the leaf litter is a mayapple. Mayapples aren't blooming right now. They're just starting to emerge. The foliage is just starting to emerge from the forest floor. And based on the name, you could probably guess when these plants are more likely to bloom. If you said May, you're right. Anywhere from late April through the first half of May is typically when we see the May apples blooming. And of course, well, why do they call them May apples? That's because once the flower has been pollinated, it does turn into what looks like a little green apple. And those little green apples are actually the seed pods of this plant. And they are relished by a lot of different species of wildlife. So they'll get eaten, the seeds will pass through those animals' digestive systems, and the seeds will be deposited with a little packet of fertilizer somewhere else on the forest floor. Another species that is just now beginning to bloom. It has this lacy green foliage. Let me get out of my own shadow here. There we go. So you can see all this lacy green foliage sticking up above the leaf litter. And if we take a closer look, you can see that we've got some flowers. So these plants are called Dutchman's Breeches. Dutchman's Breeches. The flowers are white on top and yellow at the base, sort of near the tip. And they're somewhat reminiscent of a pair of pants hanging on a clothesline. Those are Dutchman's Breeches. Drying in the wind. So the wildflowers on the forest floor are pretty awesome, but don't forget to take a look up every now and then. There's wildflowers growing on our trees and our shrubs out here as well. Let me see if I can get this in focus. These are flowers of the Spicebush plant. Oh boy, I'm struggling here with the camera footage. I gotta get my hand behind here so we can get a better look. There we go. Now the camera will focus on them. So these are Spicebush flowers. Spicebush is a really common shrub in our understory, and it blooms really early in the spring, just like many of the other plants that are out here. So don't forget about Spicebush. Not only is it worth walking out into the old growth forest to see the wildflowers that are all over the forest floor right now, but it's also worth the trip out here because of the humongous trees. This is a red oak tree. Maybe one of the biggest trees we have out here in the old growth forest. Take about 3, maybe 4 people to wrap their arms around this tree. Pretty big specimen. As you take a look around, you can see there's plenty other trees with large diameters all along the side of the trail. Sort of these big monster trees dotted all across the forest. And then there's all sorts of much younger, or at least smaller diameter ones, sprinkled all throughout. There's another big red oak down there. So even if the flowers aren't blooming, you make it out here on a cloudy day, maybe the flowers aren't fully open, maybe they're not putting on a show, don't worry. These trees are definitely worth the walk out here. Alright, so that is just a taste of some of the species of wildflowers that are currently blooming out here in early April. So if you can get out here this week, that is what you can expect to find blooming right now. If you can't make it out here this week, and it's another week or so before you're willing and able to make a trip out, those species should mostly be blooming. You may not see the abundance, but others certainly will be. So as one species of wildflower sort of runs its course and fulfills its spring life cycle, there are others that continue to pop from the soil and bloom and take their place in the parade of flowers out here. So I hope you get a chance to visit the old growth forest. Again, make sure you stay on the trail, and maybe even bring a camera, or even a pair of binoculars can be helpful. I've got my binoculars on. Since you can't walk off the trail, binoculars can be helpful to take a closer look and inspect some of those flowers that may be growing a little too far off the edge of the trail for you to get a satisfactory look at. Alright, if you have any questions about these flowers or anything else related to the Nature Center, feel free to give us a call or send us an email. We're happy to help whenever we can. Alright, happy hiking, and I hope to see you out on the trails.